first start our event with some general information concerning the use of click meeting. So as you can see, you can move the video screen to the right so that it will not block your view of the presentation by using dock or przypnij in Polish button, which is situated on the right down corner of the small video window. Then, just for your information, your camera and mic are muted throughout the webinar, but you are able to, of course, ask questions via sorry, something just happened, but I hope you still see the slide. So you can ask the presenter questions throughout the webinar using the chat. We will answer those questions at the end in the Q&A session. And just to let you know that all the presentations will be shared with you after the meeting. And now, going to our webinar today, it will be structured in the following way. First, we will hear from the representative from the European Commission, who will give us the general introduction of the InvestEU program. Then we will focus more specifically on the research, innovation, and digitalization window, where we will receive some information from the European Innovation Council and SMEs Executive Agency, as well as the two implementing partners to the InvestEU program, meaning the European Investment Bank and the Polish Bank Gospodarstwa Krajowego. And then, last but not least, we will also have a chance to hear from the Polish National Contact Point for financial instruments of the European Union programs concerning their engagement in the InvestEU program from the Polish side. And now, let me first give the floor to Mrs. Ewa Kocińska-Lange, Director of the Brussels office of the National Center for Research and Development, for opening remarks. Eva, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Maria. Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to have you, all of you, with us today. Quite some participants already joining. Hopefully, probably we'll have even more. And we are especially happy to have such a distinguished guests as speakers today. We were really trying to find the best speakers for you to get to know InvestEU, which is a new program, but not completely new in the sense that it's built on the success of investment plan that was implemented in last years. But anyhow, there are some novelties, and we would like you to find out about them and to get prepared for this window of opportunities, let's say. And let me say a few words also about the office in Brussels. NCBR, so National Center for Research and Development, is active in Brussels now. We started during this turbulent time of pandemic, but we hope for really the development of our activities a bit more intensively in the coming weeks and months, and of course also years. Our presence in Brussels is linked with ambitions of Poland of strengthening the participation level in the Horizon Europe program. But we also monitor and observe and want to support participation of Polish beneficiaries in other EU-funded programs, especially the ones managed directly by the European Commission. And that's why we are having this webinar today, because InvestEU is also about research innovation, not only, but also. And we want to get the information on the table for you, so you can prepare yourself and decide whether you prefer some grants or maybe some financial instruments that will be better for development of your specific ideas. As the office is run in cooperation with Business and Science Poland, we hope also for the interest from the business sector, and we always support, first of all, the cooperation between the two. So it's not only about science and research; it's also about business innovation and development of the economy. Maria already mentioned the institutions we have, and so I will not repeat that. We are very grateful that we have the European Commission, European Investment Bank, the agencies, and Polish partners, so Bank Gospodarstwa Krajowego and the National Contact Point for Financial Instruments, who will be there for you in Warsaw, in Poland, for all daily issues linked with finding information about the program and possibilities to participate. I think that will be it from my side. I will follow the webinar closely, and I wish you a fruitful meeting, and I hope you will get as much information as possible, and you will be able to use this opportunity in your businesses and different endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva, very much. Let's now move directly to the first part of our webinar. And I would like to welcome our first speaker, Mr. Martin Koch from DG ECFIN, Directorate General for Financial and Economic Affairs of the European Commission. He is the policy officer in the InvestEU Implementation Unit. Martin, the floor is yours. I will right now share your presentation. Here it is.
Yes, very good morning. I hope you can hear me clearly. Can you?
Yes, we can hear you, and we can see you.
Good morning to everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm happy to be here. I have prepared a presentation for you. I will speak roughly 25 minutes. And I understand that later on there's also time for questions and answers then. The topic is the InvestEU program, and I would like to start with a few general remarks on this. It is a program which is running for the next 7 years. It is the key financial support program at the EU level across member states. And it's addressing investment and finance needs in several European Union policy areas. I come to this a bit later in more detail. What is also important to know is it is a policy program, of course, but it's also market and demand driven, which means wherever good projects emerge, wherever there is an opportunity to invest and finance, the program can be used. So it's not that we pre-allocate a budget or investments to certain areas or sectors. It's really demand-driven, meaning wherever there's something good emerging, it can be addressed by InvestEU. Also at the beginning, I would like to say there are 3 components under the InvestEU program. It's the InvestEU fund, which is mobilizing public and private finance. There is also the InvestEU Advisory Hub, which is about technical assistance and preparation of projects. And we have also the InvestEU portal, which is a database to connect investors with financiers and promoters. In today's presentation, I would like to focus very much on the InvestEU fund because it's about finance, and I will only spare a few words about the hub and the portal at the very end. So let's take a look at the InvestEU fund, which is at the heart of the InvestEU program. And I would like to summarize in a nutshell what it is all about. It is a single fund which summarizes and integrates previous programs we had in the last years under one umbrella, also to make it simpler and to streamline the way you can access this funding. The InvestEU fund is basically a guarantee of the EU budget of around 26 billion, meaning that we have a risk-taking capacity in the budget. We call it the fund, but it's not a real fund. But what we can do is we can share risks with those who want to finance investments. What we can do in the next 7 to 10 years is through certain leverage and multiplier effects, we can approximately support investments in around of 370 billion euros. So this is a big program. We have under InvestEU 4 thematic priorities. What we call it policy windows. I come to this in a second in a separate slide. What is also important to know is that the InvestEU mechanism we have put in place can also be used by other EU funding programs like Horizon Europe with extra money. If they want to use this InvestEU fund mechanism, we can do this. But also member states like Poland can also use InvestEU for their funding needs. In addition, we have a so-called member state compartment, and there might be interest of some member states to use the InvestEU mechanism to finance particular needs in the country. But that's something special. I would not like to touch upon this in detail right now, but I just want to mention and flag this. There is multiple use of the InvestEU program, the fund, and its mechanism. Let's take a look at the budget. I mentioned at the beginning it's in globally 26.2 billion of the EU guarantee. It's split into 4 areas, what we call policy windows or priority areas. And these are the 4 priority areas. It's sustainable infrastructure. This is about greening the economy, about climate change addressing. It's about transport, etc. I come to this later in detail. Around 10 billion of the guarantee goes into this area. Then we have a distinct area, SMEs and small mid-caps. I will also explain this in a second, with around 7 billion of guarantee. We have, of course, research, innovation, and digitalization, the most important issue today, with around 6.6 billion of guarantee, so also a very important area. And we have, last but not least, social skills and investment, with 2.8 billion for social investments. I will come to those 4 policy areas in detail with 1 slide each. That's the way we basically deliver InvestEU. Don't be confused by this slightly crowded slide. I will explain it, and then we will walk through it from left to right. On the left-hand side, you see the InvestEU guarantee, which is basically the risk buffer we have put in place. We work at our level with what we call implementing partners, which are our direct partners in terms of risk-taking. This is mainly the European Investment Bank, but we also select other implementing partners through calls for expression of interest, which is currently running. I will say a few words about this later on. So it's the EIB, but also other partners at our level with whom we conclude guarantee agreements. And then financing is provided to the right-hand side to beneficiaries under the 4 windows, either directly from our implementing partners, or they work with intermediaries, with local banks, commercial banks, guarantee associations, with microfinance providers, or with venture capital funds, and finance is provided indirectly through those intermediaries. Both ways, direct finance and indirect finance, are equally important and equally accessible, but it's just the way we structure this. But for the beneficiary on the right-hand side, the company, those who receive finance, it doesn't really matter. It's more or less for us the way to spread finance in the most effective way, and we do it directly and indirectly. Now, looking into, again, on the implementing partner side, which is important because this is where you would address yourself or to a financial intermediaries 1 level down. As I said, we work mainly with the European Investment Bank and the European Investment Fund. They are responsible for 75% of our guarantee and the financing related to that. And at the moment, we are also selecting through an open call for expression of interest institutions in member states to work with us for the rest, the 25% of the guarantee. And that's an open call at the moment, and we expect a lot of interest from the market, and we will choose the implementing partners this year. Takes a bit of time, but I mean, the process is ongoing and running. And we do this because we want to increase a bit the geographical outreach, and we also would like to have in member states, ideally a partner which is maybe a bit easily accessible for also smaller companies. We also work with commercial banks indirectly in investment funds, so it's about loans finance, but also about equity finance. So we have all options in terms of financial instruments which we can think of. So it's really a flexible instrument. Now let's take a look at the 4 windows I mentioned. We have now for the first, the sustainable infrastructure window, which is there to support investments in the green economy and to make the economy more sustainable. This is about energy, transport, other infrastructure investments. It is also about environmental protection investments. It's also about innovative technologies to some degree. And what we do here is we work with standalone promoters as final beneficiaries. It can also be public-private partnerships and other forms. This is a very open approach. This is about greening the economy and supporting green investments. The second window is research, innovation, and digitalization. I will not spend much time on this because my colleague Katarina Barunska will go into a great level of detail after my presentation, so I will not spare many words on this. The third window is addressing investment needs of small and medium-sized enterprises, our SME window. And here we can support SMEs in a European definition and what we call small mid-caps. These are companies with up to 499 employees, an important target group because there's a lot of things happening there: startup finance, innovative companies, smaller businesses going into niches, which often includes higher risk. But this is an ideal window to address small and medium-sized investment and finance needs. And the fourth window I mentioned is the social investment and skills window. Here we can support social investments, also microfinance, but also social infrastructure like health, housing, education, infrastructure. So again, an important area which under this window can be supported. Here we also have typically smaller companies as beneficiaries, NGOs, health authorities, and public institutions too. I would like to say one thing about sustainability because it is somehow in our name, because you know the European Green Deal is one of the priorities of this European Commission of the EU member states. It's about becoming more or greener and more sustainable. InvestEU is part of this approach. And the InvestEU program has a target of 30% at least to contribute to the EU's climate objectives. It also includes to become climate neutral by 2050. It's a long-term goal, but it's part of our approach. And also under the just mentioned sustainable infrastructure window, there's another goal of at least 60% of finance should go to projects and investments which can support our climate and environmental objectives. So sustainability is an overarching important issue of InvestEU. And also in that context there are two aspects which are worth mentioning. One is, particularly for larger projects, we are implementing partners, but also project promoters have to check in how far their investments are sustainable in terms of environmental impact, climate impact, and social impact. There is a checklist there, there's Commission guidance there, so we are not alone, but that is an important aspect to make sure that we don't finance investments which are not sustainable in the way we see that. And also importantly for us is there is climate environmental tracking, meaning we will also look at the impact of investments to our climate and environmental objectives, and we have a tracking system in place under InvestEU with climate markers. They're relatively easy to use, but also those who benefit from finance would need to tell us in how far they contribute to climate and environmental purposes, and we can track this down through a list of markers. Just to mention this, it's not rocket science, it's not difficult, but it's an important feature of the InvestEU program. Let me also spend a few moments on the two other components apart from the fund, which is the advisory hub. This is about providing assistance, technical assistance and advice to those who prepare projects and investments. There's another budget of 400 million, which we have in place in total, which we provide through the EIB, but also through other advisory partners. This is very useful because you can prepare your projects, you can structure it, you can look for financial options, you can also look at capacity building in local authorities, but also to do some market development and analysis. It is about making projects better, more structured, and therefore more attractive to investors. So this is an important advisory component which is part of the program, and it's linked to the InvestEU fund. And last but not least, hello? Hello? Yeah. I have a last slide, which is the InvestEU portal, which is a database, internet-based, where we can provide information on projects. So project promoters can upload data and information. It can be seen, it's online, it can be seen by those who want to finance projects. It's about matchmaking between investors and those who want to receive finance. It will be in place in the third quarter of 2021, and it's run by the Commission also. We also check that data is compliant with EU law, so that we also upload only information which is useful and relevant. But it's an important source to look what is up there, what are the projects which look for finance, and then we can connect them with investors. At the end, I would like to spend 1 minute on the timeline, because everything is about being quick, but also being accurate. We are now in June, and we have basically set up the InvestEU fund. We have run also the first call for expression of interest for guarantee partners, for implementing partners, and for advisory partners. There is a cutoff date end of June and another one in October. So it's at the moment open for application, and we are very eager to select good implementing partners to roll out InvestEU. At the same time, we are negotiating with the EIB and the ERF, our main partners, the guarantee and the advisory agreement, so that we can be operational as soon as we can, certainly this year. And then finance is up and investors can turn to the InvestEU program. I would finally like to thank you for your attention. I hope it was useful, not too crowded, and I'm happy to take any questions on board later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin. Indeed, that was very useful. And indeed, at least now, all of our viewers have the general idea of the InvestEU program. I will now move directly to the second part of our webinar. So we've heard the general ideas of InvestEU program as such. And now we will move more specifically to the main theme of our webinar today, which is support for research, innovation, and digitalization. So one of the policy window of InvestEU fund. And we will start first with Mrs. Katarina Borońska, who is a policy officer in the EIC fund and research and innovation investment sector within the European Innovation Council and SMEs Executive Agency. Katarina, a warm welcome to you. I will right now start your presentation. Here it is. Please take the floor.
Thank you very much. And I can move like this. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. So good morning, and thank you for the introduction, Maria. As you said, I work in the EIC and SMEs Executive Agency, which has been established quite recently, precisely on the 1st of April. And among our tasks and responsibilities, we are responsible for the operationalization and implementation of the InvestEU research, innovation, and digitization window, and also for any other innovation and research related aspects under the three remaining windows that Martin has presented. But before diving into the InvestEU and the RID window, so Research, Innovation and Digitization window, I wanted to present to you a little bit the background and where do we actually come from in relation to what is planned under InvestEU. So you may be aware of the Innofin program, the EU Finance for Innovators, which was implemented under Horizon 2020. It was our financial instrument for supporting innovative companies, mainly SMEs, but also mid-caps, corporates, universities, and other actors. And it was implemented by DG Research and Innovation in close collaboration with our implementing partners, which for Innofin were the European Investment Fund and the European Investment Bank. So the EIF, on the one hand, was implementing the intermediated type of products, Innofin Equity, through which or under which they were supporting venture capital funds that were investing in early stage companies, those that were active in the sectors and areas under Horizon 2020. and also the Innofin SME Guarantee Program, which has become the largest pan-European guarantee program in Europe, and also to a certain extent covering countries beyond Europe, and which enabled the EIF to provide guarantees to financial intermediaries, banks, but also alternative lenders, commercial banks, national promotional institutions, who then were able to support innovative SMEs and mid-caps through loans or leases. And on the other hand, we worked closely with the EIB that was implementing primarily direct products under Innofin. So those targeting corporate actors, mid-cap companies, companies and actors in emerging innovator countries, or targeting scientific institutions, universities, research organization, and others. And also the EIB was responsible for the implementation of thematic financial products, which we've developed together and which were very successful, especially in terms of addressing important societal issues. Most recently, the COVID-19 pandemic, whereby under Innofin Infectious Diseases, we supported several companies working on treatments, on diagnostics, but also vaccines. Or when it comes to the green transition, the Innofin energy demonstration projects were key in financing the demonstration of several first-of-a-kind technologies. And then we also had an advisory component, which is very important when we talk about enabling financing to research and innovation intensive companies, because very often they still need certain technical or financial advice in order to become investment ready and benefit from the programs that we had under Innofin. So very briefly, in terms of numbers, under the direct products that I've just explained, the EIB signed until the end of last year 145 operations in the amount of 11 billion. I think that in Poland the number of operations was about 9 and totaling 1.4 billion. 27 countries were covered, as I said, EU member states, but also Horizon 2020 associated countries. And you can see the split of final beneficiaries in terms of the type of enterprises. Under the intermediated instruments, so as I said, the Innofin SME guarantee was or has become the largest pan-European guarantee instrument with 17.5 billion of guarantee amount signed with the financial intermediaries, which is enabling over 30 billion of financing to over 30,000 of innovative companies, primarily SMEs and small mid-caps in 43 countries, which are member states, EU member states, but also once again, Horizon 2020 associated countries. And under equity, the EIF signed operations totaling 1.4 billion euros, and which shall result in approximately 7 billion of investments in eligible final beneficiaries. So having these products and their scope reach in mind, we have worked together with colleagues in the Commission on the architecture and on the design of the RID window under InvestEU. Of course, as mentioned previously, we are not only building on Innofin products, we also build on other instruments, and the European Fund for Strategic Investments is one of the programs we were also building on. But with this in mind, we have defined priorities under the RID window because, as Martin said, although InvestEU is a demand-driven instrument, it is also primarily for us a policy-driven instrument. So we want to somehow drive the financing to the key policy priorities of the Commission. But of course, in the end, it will depend on the demand and on the applications that the implementing partners will receive from the market. So having said this, for the RID window, the main priorities are the twin transition, the green and digital. So on the one hand, we will be focusing on, or we would like to finance projects in the area of the European Green Deal in clean energy, modernization and decarbonization of industry, circular economy, bioeconomy, sustainable blue economy, and many others. We also are focusing on supporting investments in strategic technologies and strategic digital technologies, where we would like to ensure a certain level of strategic autonomy from the side of the EU vis-à-vis its competitors. And of course, also health and life sciences is a key area, and not only because of the pandemic that we've just lived through or are still in the process of addressing, but also of other high unmet medical needs and diseases that require our attention, be it cancer, be it neurodegenerative diseases, and many others. And of course, we also want to continue our support to research and technology infrastructures and organizations and to universities. So with these priorities in mind, what are actually the products that we are developing under the RID window? The 4 products that I will present are those that we are currently discussing with the EIB group, with EIB and EIF. But of course, we would also expect that similar products are going to be implemented by the other implementing partners that would apply or that are in the process of applying through the call for expression of interest. So the first product is the general debt product, through which the implementing partner would be providing direct corporate lending to SMEs, small mid-caps or large corporates, but also providing financing to universities, research and technology infrastructures and organizations, or public-private partnerships. So the focus would be on the priorities of the Commission that I've just explained. And usually the loan covered would be maximum of 50% of the total R&D project costs. Even though I think that in the investment guidelines, we are now talking about up to 70%. I'll have a sip of water because I'm talking a lot, sorry. So then another important product, as I said, are the thematic products that we've developed under Innofin. And for InvestEU, we plan to design and implement a product jointly with the Sustainable Infrastructure Window, which would be targeting the green transition. So our name would be Green Investment Facility. And such product is a continuation of, and also slight revision of the Innofin Energy Demonstration Project's product, but also of the Connecting Europe Facility Future Mobility product that the EIB is currently implementing. The objective of such facility would be to address the difficulties in access to finance which are faced by high-risk projects in the area of early stage demonstrations, but also early stage deployment. And the entire focus of the facility is on the areas of the European Green Deal. So you can see that the sectors covered are those under the European Green Deal policy priority that I've described earlier. These products, or this product for us, is a thematic one in our language because it is addressing a high risk area and also high policy value added area, since it is targeting, as I said, early demonstration projects or companies targeting non-mature technologies, business models, or manufacturing plants, and also on the other hand, high risk early deployment or first phases of commercialization. Continuing with the thematic products, we also have a thematic product focusing on innovation investments. On the one hand, it is targeting health innovations. So in continuation of the Innofin Infectious Diseases Finance Facility, since we are still discussing actually the scope of all these products and they are not set in stone, I just want to highlight that all these are, let's say, examples of the targeted areas that we would plan to address in terms of clinical trials, validation, and market entry. So as I said, we would be expanding the scope of the infectious disease finance facility beyond infectious diseases because there are other unmet health needs, medical needs that should be addressed. For example, finding therapies for rare diseases, for neurodegenerative diseases, having cell and gene-based advanced therapies, and many others. This thematic product focusing on innovation would also have a digital component where the priority or the projects to be supported should be in the area of strategic digital technologies. I do not have a slide on this one specifically, but examples of projects could be in artificial intelligence, blockchain, quantum computing, and others. So we also plan to continue the products that we are doing through in an intermediated way, although since the EIF is mainly targeting SMEs and small mid-caps, the scope falls rather under the SME window, but we wanted also to support such investments through the research, innovation, and digitization window. And that is why we are proposing a joint product between the RID and SME window targeting equity investments in Europe. So here we are building on the Innofin equity product and on the COSME equity for growth facility. The objective of such an instrument or of such investments would be to ensure sufficient level of risk capital for early and growth stage companies in Europe, and also for innovative mid-caps. So here, that's also why the RID window comes into play, because these type of companies would fall outside the scope of the SME window. And we've formulated our intervention or the intervention of the implementing partners among the policy priority areas. So we want to focus or target funds of specific policy value, be it funds that have investment strategy in the area of climate and environment, digital technologies, life sciences, and others, or also technology transfer, which is a very, let's say, high risk area, and these type of funds find it difficult to attract sufficient level of private investment. Then we also will be targeting funds that are supporting the development of a more diversified pan-European capital market. So there we foresee to continue co-investing together with business angels, and also in a way, as a novelty, we really want to put more attention to investments in funds with a gender lens strategy, but also funds that are led by females or have women in the decision-making posts. And last but not least, also as a novelty in a way, we want to focus on funds that are accompanying companies through the initial public offering phase. So having now spoken about the financial products that we envisage, as I said at the very beginning, advisory plays a very important role and is a key component, let's say, accompanying the financial products and the financial instruments. Here, once again, under the InvestEU Advisory Hub, since we have similar type of beneficiaries, but also activities that we want to support, we have joined forces between the SME and the RID windows to have common advisory initiatives that would focus on three pillars. The one is project advisory, whereby the advisory partners will be really helping the projects, the project promoters in preparing a viable business proposal and improving their investment readiness vis-a-vis the financing products under InvestEU, but also from other private sector possibilities. The second pillar would be on capacity building, where we've seen that it's important to also enhance the capacity of financial intermediaries to actually develop and support financing in the priority areas that we want to target. An example is, for example, the cultural and creative sector facility, which also had a capacity building component, which proved to be very helpful for the financial intermediaries and finally for the final beneficiaries. And the last pillar would be market development activities, which would mainly be geared towards supporting the policy development under InvestEU going further. So several studies that should be done in order to quantify and present financing gaps in new sectors that, for example, could be financed under InvestEU, and in such a way help the Commission to design new financing mechanisms under InvestEU. So this is all from my side, and I look forward to questions in the next section.
Thank you, Katrina, very much. It was indeed very useful, and I think you provide us with a lot of detailed information. Now I will move to the next speaker, and let me welcome Mr. Christian Antocci from the Growth Finance and Venture Debt Division in the European Investment Bank. Christian, I hope you are here. I will just right now start your presentation. Just give me...
Yes, thank you, Maria, and good morning, everyone. I'm still here.
Great. I hope you can see the presentation, so the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. So as a brief introduction, my name is Christian Antocci, not Hristo Stoikov, as it's written on the presentation, and I'm in EIB's venture debt team working directly with the companies that we finance. So the next part will be about how the European Investment Bank would finance innovation under InvestEU. And since today I'll be representing the EIB group, I will introduce very briefly the role of EIB within the implementation of InvestEU. I'll try to be short, so I'll focus less on the technicalities of such facilities and more on what EIB actually will do to finance innovation under InvestEU. And maybe it would be important for you, which are the practical implications as final beneficiaries. If time allows, then at the end, I'll try to give you also a couple of examples of companies that we financed and how we financed them. So maybe starting, innovation is what enables us to do things better than we previously could, maybe live better and healthier, or even do things that we couldn't do before. But since the innovation process usually takes a long time and you don't know if the new product or service you created will work, or even if it will be favorably received by the market. So innovation is inherently a risk-taking activity. It's actually a high risk-taking activity. But we, the banks, hate risk. So you'd not get the job at the bank if you like risks. Probably the easiest way to end the job interview at the bank is saying, "Oh, I'm an adventurous person. I love taking risks." But this is where InvestEU comes in and allows us, the EIB and other implementing partners, despite our nature as banks, to actually take the high risk of financing innovation. As mentioned by Martin, InvestEU has three main components. So there's the advisory hub, the portal, and the fund. As we are discussing about financial instruments and financing research and innovation, I'll be referring to the InvestEU fund. So the InvestEU fund is in practice a new guarantee which allows the implementing partners, such as us, EIB, to take more risks. And notably, this would be in the four key policy areas of the European Union. One key difference from FC, for those familiar with FC before, is that InvestEU is open for additional investment partners. Us, EIB, as the European Union's bank, will be responsible for implementing 75% of this guarantee. On this slide, it's just a representation of how the 14 financial instruments were streamlined under the InvestEU umbrella. As mentioned by Martin, it is the first program that combines all the fragmented programs from the past. And it is meant to work together with national and other programs such as Recovery and Resilience Facility and EIC, for example. On this slide is just a representation of the four policy windows, and this was already described by Martin. And this is where InvestEU will encourage more risk-taking in financing and hence more investments in these areas. The window that is probably of most interest for us today is the one on the upper right side, research, innovation, and digitization. But this was covered already by Katerina, so I'll not spend time on it. But it's important maybe to stress again that the green economy is growing in importance, so all windows will have a climate component. Now, these are the eligible sectors for innovation financing. I think Katerina already covered very well this section. So in any case, the presentations would be shared with you. You can go through the list of sectors at your own leisure. Now, how do you plan to finance innovation? And maybe here I should start with a quick background of the EIB group, just to make sure that we are all on the same page. So in the EIB group, there are two entities: the European Investment Bank, which is actually the Bank of the European Union, and the EIF, which is EIB's subsidiary. Now, the easiest to understand the difference between the left side and the right side is that the bank does mostly direct financing, but not only, but mostly direct. So providing finance directly to companies, banks, EU states, and other entities. And on the right side, EIF is in essence Europe's fund of funds, which participates in funds across Europe, so indirect finance. But not only, again, but this is mostly how we are separated. So how does the EIB finance innovation? And here we have multiple approaches. Venture debt is the flagship financing instrument that we have for directly financing innovative startups and also mid-caps in Europe. Having the InvestEU guarantee, we can, as explained at the beginning, we can take more risk on the market. So with venture debt, we take the risk at the venture stage, essentially at the level of Series A, B, C for startups and mid-caps. This is the stage when lots of money are needed by such startups, and usually this is for a long time, and usually a much longer time than startups estimate. But I'll touch upon the venture debt financing a bit later. Then secondly, there is the thematic finance, which can be structured financially either as venture debt or as project finance. the key difference is that typically under thematic finance, we can look at even riskier projects than with the standard venture debt. But here, there are only a number of sectors that qualify. Maybe as Katerina also mentioned, just two examples to illustrate. So we have now, for example, as thematic finance, the infectious diseases facility, where we are seeking to finance development of drugs for infectious diseases or vaccines. So some notorious examples now are the financing of the development of COVID vaccines and also testing devices for COVID. This was what allowed these vaccines to go very quickly to the market. Another example would be energy demo projects, where we are looking to finance, for example, renewable energy technologies, smart energy systems, energy storage, carbon capture, carbon storage. Now, while the first two, venture debt and thematic finance, are targeted at SMEs and mid-caps or startups, under the next one, the corporate risk sharing, we're looking to finance research projects of larger corporates. Here we basically ring-fence such research projects from the main corporate activity and set up usually a separate vehicle, or we can just ring-fence legally these research projects. Now, the last one on this slide, under co-investments, we partner, for example, with venture capital funds or venture investment arms of corporates, and we co-invest into startups and mid-caps, so basically increasing the firepower of such entities. Now, as you are probably familiar, the best things in life, as well as in contracts and also in presentations, are in the fine print or in the annex. So let's move on to the annex. I was mentioning a bit earlier venture debt as the flagship financing instrument to finance innovation. Starting with a bit of history, since its founding in 1958 until a few years ago, EIB was mainly known for financing large infrastructure projects and large corporates. But around 6-7 years ago, we launched this program to finance innovation. And innovation usually happens not at the level of large corporates, but at the level of startups and mid-caps or universities. But we are talking about this a bit later stage when the idea that, or the spin-off from a university actually became a startup. So we designed this instrument, which we called venture debt, and is basically long-term debt financing, 5 to 8 years at the venture stage, taking equity risk. But since it's behaving more as debt, it has a much smaller impact on the cap table of the company than an equivalent equity round. So this is targeted at startups and mid-caps that have already raised some equity. So after Series A. So in essence, with the venture debt, we are looking to spot and finance the next European tech champions. And this, of course, because we are financing R&D in these companies, we're ultimately trying to build a very strong European tech ecosystem. We are covering most of the sectors, tech sectors, such as biotech, cybersecurity, high-tech engineering, robotics, artificial intelligence, automation, blockchain, and so on. So far, we have spoken to thousands of European tech startups, and we ended up financing so far more than 140 companies only under the venture debt umbrella. And this is in addition to the companies that we financed under the different thematic instruments. And let me continue with a couple of examples. So to maybe starting from the one down the slide, Magazzino. builds robots that can pick or place items in a warehouse, or they can bring items to the production lines. This is a simple thing for us humans to do, but it's very difficult for robots. But somehow the guys from Magazzino nailed it. And the beauty of it is that compared to humans, where you have to teach each person to do a thing, once a robot learns how to better identify an item through artificial intelligence, then that knowledge is instantly available to the others. So you can imagine that the market potential of this is massive. The imagination on what you can do with this is the only limit. So this would go in almost anything in warehouse automation, where there are a lot of jobs that nowadays almost nobody wants. And it's important because a lot of the commerce is moving online. Now, for the example on the top of the page, Prophecy. This is a company that created a sensor that mimics the way that the human eye and brain see. So maybe to explain, so we, the humans, only see about 5 to 15% of what we think we see. The rest is actually built by our brains. And this is something, it's a very efficient thing that nature somehow refined over millions of years. At the same time, in the classical vision for machines is based on the same sensors that we have for artistic cameras or that we have in our phones, which for the purpose of a robot understanding what happens around it, these are very, very inefficient because they have to process a lot of slides with a lot of redundant information. So these guys from Prophecy had the idea of building sensors and machine intelligence that are efficient as the human brain. And here again, that like in the case of Magazzino, they have a massive potential, and only imagination is the limit on what can be achieved. The problem is that until you actually get there on the market, you need a lot of patient capital that doesn't dilute your business like crazy. And this is where we come in. And also this is where InvestEU comes in and allows us to take this high risk and finance companies like this one. Now, as the EU bank, we are covering all the European Union, so not as you see on this slide like France and Germany, but all the countries, and we have examples also from Poland. So we also cover Poland, and we would finance directly startups and mid-caps in Poland that develop innovative technologies. In terms of applying for such financing, the organizers would share the contact details, and of course, if they are interested companies, they can write directly to us. And I'll try to stop here. Many thanks for your attention, and looking forward to your questions if you have any.
Thank you very much, Christian. It was indeed a very detailed presentation with a lot of interesting projects already financed by the EIB. So I think that gives us a good idea of what we can also expect in the future. I will now move directly to our third presentation in this part of the webinar. And I would like to welcome Mr. Karol Tofil from the BGK's representative office in Brussels. Karol, I will run your presentation right now. And the floor is yours.
Thanks, Maria, for the invitation. Thank you very much. And good morning to all of you. First of all, let me apologize. I'm replacing Ania Socik, who is our team leader in InvestEU Innovation part of our project in the bank. Unfortunately, she is sick today, so I will try to do my best and explain you first of all very shortly who we are as BGK. Secondly, our plans to implement InvestEU, and above all, the third point, I will try to be more detailed in our plans for the innovation and research and digitalization window of the program. So very shortly on BGK, for those who doesn't know us, we are the national promotional institution of Poland. We are 100% state-owned bank with A- rating, same as Poland. We do a lot in different fields of economy, so we support and we finance investments, big infrastructure construction strategic projects. We are very in investments of the local governments and financing of the development of enterprises with a big angle of SME financing. In 2020, our total funding volume was estimated to around 25 billion zlotys, and our total assets in 2020 are estimated for around 35 billion euros. So this is about us. And now a couple of words about InvestEU, the current status, some assumptions, some basic assumptions, and the thoughts on what we plan to do here with respect to InvestEU. We have successfully gone through the pillar assessment process. Last year in December, the European Commission confirmed we can be eligible to the InvestEU program as a potential implementing partner. And indeed, we plan to participate in the first call of expression of interest, which, as colleagues from the Commission rightly pointed out, will finish in the due course in the end of June. Development banks, national promotion institutions, will be responsible for implementation of 20%, 25% of InvestEU guarantee. The remaining part, the biggest part, will go to the EIB. So it's 6.6 billion euros, and the 70% of that will go in the first calls of expression of interest this year, the remaining part in 2023. So this, from the beginning, creates on us, we have to develop a good tactics in product tactics to be ready and to effectively deploy the funds. What is important, and I think it's important to stress this out, is that we have to, in the first call, we have to act in a quite rapid manner, as the money which goes to InvestEU comes from the next generation EU sources, meaning that 50% of the guarantees has to be approved until 2022, and 80% until 2023. So this as well creates some reflection on products, on what we can do in a relatively fast manner. So in this first call of expression of interest, we will go with in the two windows, sustainable infrastructure window with some investment loans for renewables, for offshore, and as well we are planning to participate in the next Margaret 3 fund together with EIB and other big national promotional banks from the member states. And on research, innovation, and digitalization, we plan to submit to Commission 2 thematic products, one with respect to innovation. It will be an investment loan for innovation, and the second part, investment loan for digitalization, automatization, and robotization. And now I will I will briefly touch upon those 2 ideas we have in mind. We will negotiate with the Commission hopefully soon. So the first innovation credit, maybe a couple of words, because we indeed we go only with the debt type products, where in this window most probably the venture capital products will be highly popular. We at BGK, we mostly do the debt products. On the venture side, we are the investors, but we believe that there is space to create a product, a debt product for innovation. Indeed, we find InvestEU as a really chance to create something new and unique in the financial system of Poland as a financial instrument, where additionality criteria stands as a main principle. So we were already contacted many times by entrepreneurs who would like to get a debt financing. Unfortunately, due to the nature of our activities, and we are operating under banking law, so as my EIB colleague mentioned correctly, risk is something which is problem number 1 for banks, and it's difficult to work in this highly risky segment without the guarantee, and we think InvestEU may fit perfectly into this scenario. So we believe there are some companies in the market who do not necessarily wishes to use venture capital and seek venture capital. They are rather seeking the debt. Some companies with already fragmented shareholdings, they are actually cannot go into the foreign markets, and this actually limits their capabilities to growth. So they cannot seek more venture capital. They are rather interested in acquiring debt. There are as well some innovative companies which simply doesn't fit into the venture capital, I would say, profile. So they are the projects they are developing. They are good, but not necessarily good for the venture capital. So we try to address this niche of the market. And here, as you see, this is of course not final, because we will still negotiate with the Commission the terms of the guarantee, but we wish to cover those operations with the InvestEU guarantee. The riskier project, the more guarantee. And of course, the main objectives is innovation in the areas, as Katarina and Martin explained before. We are as well here. This is a very good exercise for our institution, as we are learning how to create a policy-driven instrument. Policy-driven here, driven by the investment guidelines to the InvestEU. And we try to target mainly here SMEs and mid-caps. We have taken, or we try to take a realistic approach here in this thematic product. As I explained before, the guarantee has to be deployed in a relatively fast manner. We will not seek for the big sums of the guarantee, but we rather try to see how the market will look like, and to rather to see the first projects which we may finance fast, and then develop that program in the future if this is a success. And so this is the first part. The second thematic product, credit for digitalization, automatization, and robotization. It will be a pari passu structure for the guarantee, and the main objective is a scaling up of the activities in the areas I have mentioned here. The targets are as well SMEs, but moreover mid-caps. Here we plan to finance bigger transactions, bigger volumes. So we estimate that we will the estimated volume of transaction for around 90 million euros in this first years of the InvestEU guarantee. So I think I have concluded here my short presentation. You have our business contacts here, myself and Ania. If you are interested in discussing further the possibility of acquiring the finance with the InvestEU guarantee with the support of BGK, do not hesitate to contact us. Thank you very much for invitation once again, and I'm open to reply to the questions. Thanks.
Karol, thank you very much for your presentation. So now we have a better look on the possibilities offered both by the EIB and the BGK from as far as the implementation of InvestEU is considered. And now we are well ahead of time, but maybe that it's good because we will have more time now to listen to the next presentation. During which we will have an opportunity to shed a light on the more activities as far as the assistance in the implementation of InvestEU in Poland is concerned. So I wanna like to warmly welcome Mr. Arkadiusz Lewicki, the Director of the National Contact Point for Financial Instruments of the European Union programs. Arkadiusz, the floor is yours. I will right now run your presentation.
Okay.
Should be on.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Hello, everybody. Could you hear me?
We can hear you and we can see you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I understand that I realize that most of information were told today, but I hope that maybe the general view on implementation system in Poland with NCPs, especially our NCPs as a dedicated NCPs to InvestEU, could be useful for everybody, also for our partners in Brussels, in Luxembourg, but of course mainly in Poland. So firstly, maybe the second slide. Okay. Firstly, a few words who we are. So we are a special entity, kind of PPP. Sometimes I'm joking that it's a kind of PPP because it's a special institution established as a cooperation between the government and financial market, Polish Bank Association and partners. And it's a kind of national competence center for EU financial instruments. It's a special group of instruments based on EIB model, but not only, especially in this financial European perspective. And we have also a special group of financial institutions interested in this cooperation. And on next slides, I present how they do it. What's more, our support is focused on financial market, but not only. With cooperation with other partners, we support also final recipients because the information and explanation sometimes, but firstly, the matchmaking between financial market, our official logo shows the idea is to match to part of the business. We cooperate as a special entity with Polish Agency of Enterprise Development and Ministry of Development, but we also cooperate very closely with BGK and other partners. And in Poland, ministry responsible for this program for InvestEU is Ministry of Development Funds and Regional Policy, but I'll say a few words about it later. So a few words about the pre-invest ecosystem, because NCP will continue the mission got under Horizon 2020. We were the first NCP cross-sectional for all framework programs, Creative Europe, Horizon 2020, COSME, EASY and similar run. So it was an idea for strengthening Polish system of implementing this type of programs. We also official hub for European Advisory Investment program under Juncker's program, and now we also, I hope, we will be also a hub in this coming in this perspective under InvestEU. More than 200 financial institutions in Poland cooperate with us. They are involved in this kind of instruments. Many of them are also involved in pro-innovative financing. So that's why it's so important to also stimulate them to use also new instruments, new programs. 17 billion Polish zlotych were generated with these instruments for final recipients in Poland. It was 50,000 entrepreneurs supported by 10 billion Polish zlotych. So still, please listen. It's very. I must underline this, that 7 billion Polish zlotych is still available for financing for entrepreneurs, because, as my colleague told, many instruments under InvestEU is still under construction. But if any participant of this conference are really interested in financing financing, we have still pro-innovative money, and especially under Horizon 2020, we have still money from our national financial intermediaries. Of course, from EIB also, because they also have still budgets for innovations. But we have our domestic, our national intermediaries, and they still have money, VC and also leasing and loans for entrepreneurs. You can find here on this website address details. And what about the ecosystem and implementation in Poland? I hope that with us on the conference are colleagues from Ministry of Development Funds. It's an official coordinator of this program in Poland. And on the left side, you can find official institutions implemented in the system in Poland. It's a part of the map of the program in Poland. But on the right side, you have partners. I called it partners because Enterprise Europe Network, NCPs, for example, for Horizon Europe, or another institutions like national promotional institutions in Poland, PARP, ARP, NCBR, they will be very useful, needed for transmission this state aid, this help, public help for final recipients. We, in this aspect, we are planning to cooperate with all kinds of institutions interested in the program. So not only with financial intermediaries, but also with many partners, also from the science world. So you are invited also for every form of our activity for this program. And about advantages, my colleague told everything, so maybe I could say something about our survey. National contact point, just a second. No, sorry, just a second, about schedule. So really thinking, I see that in the schedule in Poland, real offer, new offer with InvestEU for final recipients, also in the innovation window, innovation segment, will be available in the end of the year. So when we ask our financial market, VC funds, banks, leasing companies, they told us that no earlier than December or maybe next year. So I think that if you are interested in the program, you should follow up our website. It's instrumenty finansowe gov.pl, or we could be in a permanent contact with our advisors. I put the address on the last slide in the presentation. But we now we work with our financial candidates for a coming call of proposals. We are trying to also convince them that among many programs, many instruments, this program is very interesting. It's the main program with long-term perspective for cooperation for financial market just after the crisis is very important. So I hope it will be very useful for planning a new map with cohesion policy, with recovery funds and similar one, because we have so many programs and instruments in this perspective that every financial institution must choose its and plan just after a very deep analysis. So two slides from our survey, our research. A few weeks ago, we finished the first stage of our survey with the Ministry of Development Funds and Regional Policy with financial markets. We asked them what they think about the program, what they would like to do during the program among so many segments. And here the whole presentation has 30 slides. So if you are interested in, we could organize separate next meeting on this. But here I'd like to present two slides about VC market, because it's the closest market, financial market to innovations and research and development. So Polish VC funds plans investment fields within the EU, especially on digitalization, robust automatization, but also one of the most interested area are R&D and innovations, technology transfer and similar one. So I hope that we could find partners for this program also in this perspective. And of course, they focus mainly on SMEs and mid caps. So we see that trend is continuing, that if beneficiaries are bigger, so institutions are much more interested in. Here something about expected parameters. It's maybe more for investors, VC investors, how big money they would like to, how big capital they would like to invest and also replace on the market. I hope that with EIB and EIF we could organize with our VC market quite good offer for this perspective. So once more, I'd like to invite everybody for cooperation under this program. And now I'd like to invite you for a short survey questionnaire. Me and organizers, thank you very much once again to Eva for invitation for this event. Just 6 questions, just 60 seconds for response. If you please, if you could help us to collect such information for better implementation, we'll be very thankful for this. Maria, could you help me, please?
Yes, so I'm opening the presentation, the survey right now. You will see 6 questions. One, just scroll down to see them all, and we will kindly ask you to put your answers. We will give you a couple of minutes to do that. I can see already answers coming in, and we will also screen the answers. So feel free.
I hope we could see results just after a few minutes, just after this. So thank you.
That would be the idea.
Thank you.
I would just like to mention that we are very efficient as far as time is concerned, because thanks to great time control by all of our presenters and speakers today, we will have enough time both to run the survey, to run the results, as well as to go through the Q&A sessions. So if you have further questions, please type them in via the chat. So we will be able to present them to our speakers, and then they will be able to give you the answers.
I'm just thinking maybe we should still read the questions to be sure that everyone sees them clearly on the screen. So the first one is about the type of entity you represent. That will be very informative for us. The second is about your interest, actually, in InvestEU in general. So it's a very easy one. The third one is about the objectives of the InvestEU and their alignment with your needs. That's also quite important issue. And then the fourth one about the kind of support from InvestEU that you're interested in. And then we are also asking about support from Arek and his team as NCP to your needs. And the last one is going into more detail in this support. So what kind of support you would appreciate the most. So that will be it. And I guess we can still wait for 1 minute for your answers. And I think I have to mute myself because my neighbors are renovating. They are drilling.
Recovery. Emma, thank you very much.
Yes, really, indeed. That's it. Okay.
Yes, indeed. I think we will wait another minute to end the voting. So if you still have a chance, please fill in the questions. They are really easy one. The questionnaire as far is not very long, so I will once again encourage you to fill in the answers.
Thank you very much. I see that almost more than 30% of participants took part in the survey. Thank you very much once again. It's very important for us, and of course for my team the most important answers are in point 5 and 6. So thank you very much once again. You can find addresses to our NCP in the presentation. I hope the presentation will be available for every participant just after the conference. And if you need everything here in Poland and information about the financial instruments, not only in the program, because we are kind of one-stop shop when we talk about information also for another financial instrument in the framework program, program directly managed by European Commission. So also we'd like to help in Horizon Europe VC instruments, in life instruments and similar. We cooperate, of course, with NCBR and National Contact Point Horizon Europe, and with another similar institutions, because our main aim is to make a Polish progress in this programs. So that's why every national contact point in Poland should cooperate and support Polish candidates, Polish players in the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arkadiusz. I will now officially end the survey, and hopefully we will be able to see the results. I hope everyone can now see the results. I, as a presenter, cannot see it yet, but according to my information, everyone can see the results right now. And at this stage, since we've run through all of the presentations, thank you very much to all the speakers. We will now move to our Q&A session. And I know that the answers to quite a lot of the questions were already given via the chat. But I would, since we have still time, I would kindly ask our speakers to be ready, because I would like to view once again the questions one by one at the screen. Well, we've already have one question to Mr. Lewicki. So could you please answer this one concerning the mentioning of your presentation of the previous survey? I'm afraid, Arkadiusz, you are muted still. Okay, I think we have some problems now, so we will start with, we will move to another question. And here is the question to Mr. Koch from the European Commission concerning the selecting of intermediate organization.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good. I tried to answer the question in the chat already, but I can say it orally again, no problem. We are at the moment, just a second. We are at the moment in the first call for expression of interest phase, which is still open until 30th of June and even 1st of October with the second cutoff date. And at the moment, interested parties are preparing their application, so we don't know who will be applying. We have to see that. What I can say is for the moment is there's a lot of interest from a number of institutions, from a number of member states, but ultimately we have to see who formally applies. And but we will at a certain point also publish those we have selected, so there will be no secrecy about who is our partner. We will, when we have selected our implementing partners, apart from the EIB, EIF, which are already set, we will publish the names. We'll also publish the amounts and what do they do. So it is very transparent. But at the moment, we are in the selection process and we don't know who will ultimately apply.
Thank you very much for that. I think the next question is more or less linked to the previous one, but now with a more specific time schedule, if you could give us an answer to this one.
Yes, at the moment we are in this first call phase, which has been published at the end of April. So we are at the moment busy with the first call. We have a bit of a budget left for further calls, and for the moment, indicatively, our timing looks like that we might have a second call for the InvestEU fund and for advisory in early 2023.
Great, thank you very much. We will now move to the following question. And this one, I think, would be addressed both again to Mr. Koch and Madame Boruńska, as it concerns the information about the second pillar of Just Transition mechanism and its link with the InvestEU.
Yes, so we provided the answer in writing, but I can just repeat that this information can be found actually in the investment guidelines of the InvestEU that were already published. So the InvestEU Just Transition Scheme can be implemented through any InvestEU financial product under the 4 policy windows. And as Martin explained in his answer, it's important that these projects are located in the territories within the approved just transition schemes and also plans. I don't know, Martin, if you want to complement.
No, Catherine, this is perfectly fine. Indeed, the just transition scheme can be implemented to all 4 windows, including the RDI window. And indeed, it's key that those investments are located in the plans which the member states have agreed with the Commission that they fall under this under the just transition mechanism, and that's key. It's the location, but in terms of investments, we are as flexible as InvestEU is as a program.
Great, thank you very much both for your answers. And I know within the chat there was also a follow-up question concerning the issue whether it will be possible to combine the financing from the first pillar of the Just Transition mechanism, meaning the Just Transition Fund, and the second pillar. And if you could give us at least the generic answer or where to look for more specific answers to that question. Thank you.
Katerina, do you want me to answer this or would you like to take it on?
Yes, please, you can go ahead.
Okay. We have actually I have to counter check it with DG Regio colleagues, because when we concluded the InvestEU guidelines, the just transition mechanism was still, I think, under final discussion. But my understanding is Pillar 1 of the just transition mechanism, which is grant-based or grant funding, can be combined with Pillar 2. But I have to check this, and I have to come back to you after this webinar, if you allow. What is not possible is to combine Pillar 2, our InvestEU scheme, with the public sector loan facility, which is Pillar 3. So this is not possible to combine. But I have to check and come back to you on Pillar 1 and Pillar 2. What I understood is those combinations, grant and finance, are possible, but I need to verify this.
Great, thank you very much. Then, as we will be able also to those interested share the contact details from your side, then I think we will be able to follow on the more specific information. And now the following question, we're coming back to the question put before to Mr. Lewicki.
Yes, thank you. You can hear me? Hello? Yes, okay. Sorry, I have technical issues. Yes, Mr. Kamil Szydłowski. Panie Kamilu, tak, oczywiście udostępniłem. We can share the presentation from the survey. So I propose please send me your address, email, and we could agree best calendar and form. Okay. And the second question was about I see here about expression, call of expression for candidates for financial market. I know from EIF, from our colleagues, that they are organizing first call in September. But maybe colleagues from EIB could answer for this question better.
We will move to that question in a second. Now, just going one by one, we'll have one question to Mr. Tofil. Karol, here is the question for you. I hope you can see it.
Yes, I see it, Marysia. Thanks. Thank you for the question. Very, I would say, pertinent and actual and important, relevant, extremely relevant question for all implementing partners. And I think a question which is going above InvestEU, but I would say we are preparing the ground on two perspectives. I will not enter into details because our work in the bank is, I would say, maturing in terms of preparing the new approach to the assessment of the projects, taking into consideration the ESG criteria. This is one point, and we have launched a project in the bank and currently working on that. On InvestEU, we work similarly here, narrowing the scope, but this work will be channeled by the sustainability proofing criteria, which are, I would say, important part of the InvestEU, where all the implementing partners has to follow those proofing rules and assess the projects accordingly. And we are developing here as well the methodology how to do that, and we do that as well with the support of the European Commission with the DG reform from the technical support instrument. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And then there is one more question. Let me just write now, find it in the chat because it went somewhat missing, but let's see. I will try my best to publish it. If not, then I will read it. Maybe that will be the easiest way. So the question that already Mr. Lewicki mentioned before, when can we expect the launch of guarantee instruments of the InvestEU in the form of calls for expressions of interest for candidates for financial intermediaries? So maybe Arek said a few words about that, but maybe a colleague from the EIB would be able to add something on that. I will really appreciate that. Christian, are you still here with us?
So maybe
yeah, feel free.
Grzegorz Rapsztyn, the chief of Polish office of EIB Group, is also with us, but I don't know he has or not. Okay. Okay. So I can repeat that from our source of information, we know that the coming call of proposal is coming on September. The earliest date is in the calendar will be September.
Okay.
I cannot BGK perspective here if you wish.
Please do.
Of course, a lot depends on the negotiations of the guarantee agreements with the Commission. So this is new for all of us. So, but we plan and we hope, due to the nature of the source of the money, which are provisioning the guarantee, that until the end of the year we may start, or before the end of the year we can start the first operations.
But you mean, Karol, you own operations as an implementing partner or as a manager of funds for?
No, I mean our operations.
Okay.
Our direct funding activity.
Okay. Because we must see that the difference between these two positions. The question was about financial intermediaries. It is another position than implementing partner, who also can implement their own products for the markets, like Karol thought.
Maybe if I can complement, allow me to say a few words on this process. Because we mentioned in our presentation that the Commission chooses the implementing partners at our level through a call for expression of interest and through a transparent way, for everybody who is not the EIB group who is set as our partner. Now there's also a process foreseen how the implementing partners would choose, also at least select their financial intermediaries, because I mean, of course, many of those work for a long time with the same intermediaries, which is fine, funds or banks. However, there's also foreseen in the InvestEU regulation that this process of selecting financial intermediaries by implementing partners is done in a transparent way. It doesn't have to be a call for expression of interest, what we are doing at the European level, but it has to be a transparent way so that also financial intermediaries which haven't worked so far with EIB or others have a chance to at least be part of this delivery chain. So we have to see how it works, but there should be a transparent process in each implementing partner's, let's say, approach, that interested financial intermediaries can at least have a discussion with implementing partners to join forces. It's not a call for expression of interest, but it's a transparent process which we also will look at. If that clarifies, I hope it was useful.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed, I think that was very useful and helpful. As I don't see any other questions on the chat, so I think that we will approach till the end of our webinar. And I would like to give the floor for the last words to Ms. Ewa Kosicka-Lanka.
Thanks again, Maria, for chairing this meeting for all of us. And first of all, thank you to all the speakers for information you provided. There is an interest, I think, on the Polish side, and not only, of course, in the InvestEU and new instruments. So we will closely follow it up, and hopefully Also, the interest at this stage will actually change into real use of opportunities offered by InvestEU. We particularly, of course, care for research innovation as this is our main point of interest as the NCPR office in Brussels, and we will also encourage our clients to look into that, and not only to focus on Horizon Europe, but since all those instruments are a bit more complementary, and we see indeed quite some synergies between different programs managed by the EC, hopefully it will really work quite well in the future. Again, thank you very much also to the participants for joining us, for asking questions. And as already mentioned a few times in the chat, you will all receive an email sent by the system by click meeting with a link to presentations. And in case of any doubts, questions, follow-up, need of information, do not hesitate to contact us. Or also our colleagues in Warsaw in the National Contact Point for Financial Instruments. So I think that will be all. So thanks again to the speakers, and we wish you a very nice lunch break and afternoon, of course, and see you on other occasions. Hopefully, also maybe in Brussels if pandemic allows in the future. In the coming months. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you, Eva. Great job. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye.